So how many of y'all have 20/20 vision? You do? All right, there's one right there, a couple out there. Maybe some out here, yeah. Mine used to be 20/20. It's slowly getting a little bit out of whack, but that's not the kind of vision I want to talk about today. I mentioned that I was going to talk about 20/20 vision to Kelly this week, and she said, well, you're going to figure out in 2 years anyway. You know, when 2020 gets here, you'll know what 20/20 vision's like. But this last weekend, I saw in 20/20 vision. I'm sorry that I wasn't here with you, but I was out at Camp Capers, the diocesan camp, with my son James. He's 6 years old, and this was the first year that he was going to be able to go to Camp Capers, and he was so excited. He's gone with me before whenever I've led a camp session, but he's never been a camper. And he was so excited to sleep with Daddy and all the other boys out in the cabin and go and play the games that Abigail gets to play when she goes and have so much fun. So this father-son weekend was very, very special. And as soon as we got there, and the first activity that they gave us to do was they gave us a card, one for a father and one for the son. And it said, questions to ask Dad, questions to ask your son. And as we strolled around that 188 acres of camp, we began to ask each other these profound questions. Things like, Daddy, what are you afraid of? Son, how do you see Jesus in me? What do you need more from me? That's what I ask my son. How can I be a better daddy to you? These are questions we don't take time to ask, especially when you've got two sisters, an obstinate bulldog, all clamoring for attention all at one time, asking questions on top of each other. You certainly don't get a chance to grow in this deep, deep 20/20 vision friendship that I experienced. You know, Thomas Aquinas, a 5th century theologian, said that friendship is the greatest virtue you can attain. Friendship with God and friendship with one another. That's the greatest virtue that you can attain. And if you can attain friendship with God and friendship with one another, then you're on the way to your ultimate flourishing that God desires so much for you. That you will flourish, that you will live out His love, His light in the world around you. We hear a little bit about that today in the Old Testament lesson. Elijah has been a great mentor to Elisha. They've traveled for years and years and years together. You know, he's become like a father. They've become friends in that deep, intimate 20/20 vision type way. They have become friends. And Elisha knows that his friend is going to be taken from him, right? And so Elijah keeps saying, no, you stay here. I have somewhere to go. You stay there. But Elisha, he won't. He follows. He wants to go walk the journey with his friend, his master. And then the other prophets come out and say, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Don't you know your master's going to be taken away from you today? What are you doing wasting your time? I don't want to hear it. I'm walking with my master. And they keep saying that over and over again. And he says, no, I am going to go to the end of this journey no matter where it leads. And he does. He walks all the way to the very end, and he sees the vision of God rushing down from heaven, and Elisha picks up his ministry that's born out of the friendship that he had with his mentor, and he takes it out into the world and transfigures the world around him. We see that today on the mountaintop too. The disciples have already been told 3 times by Jesus that he's going to die, that he must go to Jerusalem to offer up his life that all might live. And Peter has already confessed the great confession in Caesarea Philippi when Jesus says, who do people say that I am? You are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And then he goes up to the top of the mountain, and Jesus takes his closest friends, Peter, James, and John. And they go up to the mountain, and what do they see? They see not a Jesus walking around in tattered rags. that's been hurt and beaten up by the world anymore. No, they see the glorified Christ in glory between Moses and Elijah, the law and the prophets. Grace right in the middle. Faith, hope, and love. And so eventually, Peter, in the way that Peter is, he said, "Now let me build 3 houses for all of you so we can just stay here forever. We can just stay here forever." My son James echoed those words as we were walking to the camp, to the truck. Cue the Peanuts sad music, right? Dragging his blanket. "Can't we just stay here forever, Daddy? Can't we just stay here forever?" No, we've got work to do. We got to go see Mommy and Daddy and Mommy and your sisters. But camp will always be in our heart. That weekend was a weekend of transformation, of transfiguration. It was a moment, a high, holy moment that I hope I can hold on to for years and years to come. Because that's the kind of friendships we have to hold on to. Those are the kind of friendships we have to cultivate. I did my clinical pastoral education. It's a requirement in seminary that you go spend 3 months in a hospital serving as a chaplain. And you're also part of a little cohort group where you get together and you process what's been going on. And there was a young Chinese woman in the group. And she had an amazing story that I'm going to share with you today. She was raised in a very, very Buddhist home. Her parents were faithful Buddhists. And as she was laying down in bed one night, she heard a sound. And it was the sound of singing coming from down the street. And then the next night, singing from down the street. And singing, and it would lull her to sleep at night. Eventually, she had to figure out where the singing was coming from. And so she snuck out her window and wandered down the street to where she heard the music coming from. And she went up to the door and she knocked very softly. And this aging Chinese woman opened the door and said, "What do you want, child? The hour is very late." And she said, "I want to know what you're singing about. I want to know this Jesus." And she said, "Well, come in and join us, and you'll find him." Now, that young girl worshiped secretly with that group of people for years until she was finally of age to immigrate to America and become a Presbyterian minister. That's transfiguration. That's transformation. That's stepping out and being a fool for Christ. That's what Paul says we need to be, a fool for Christ. The title this week of this sermon series is Wisdom from the Ancient Past. Well, I'm going to tell you what the wisdom from the ancient past is. It's to be a fool. It's to be a foolish fool and a friend. A real friend that never leaves the side of someone that you're investing your life in, that you're pouring the love of God into and receiving that love back. It never ends. And so we too are called to pick up our cross and follow where the Messiah leads, into deeper and deeper levels of friendship and vulnerability with one another, friendship with the world. What did Jesus say? He said, the most important commandments are these: to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Friendship with God and friendship with one another. So I implore us all this morning to make a right beginning of this, to offer to God anything that's in your way, any shame, anything that's holding you back, anything you just can't shake. Offer that sin to God and let it slip away. Make that decision today. And number 2, love. There's so many ways you can love here at Christ Church. You can be a part of any one of our many Bible studies and grow in community and fellowship and true friendship. You can come to dinner and discipleship on Wednesday nights and be a part of our small groups where real relationship is being formed and transformed and lifted up. In our our 20 to 40s Sunday school class, I have seen with 2020 vision so often as people come and they pour their lives out, the deepest hurts that they have felt in their life, they pour them out to the community, that the community can speak life back into them. That's what church is all about. Love. And that's our mission out in the world, is love. And love, as the doctors always say, takes work. And finally, enjoy. Enjoy. Let the joy of the Lord be your strength as you go out there and you be a fool and you be a friend and you show forth to the world how bright and how unending, how high, how wide is the love of God for all those who put their trust in Him, that you might be transformed and transfigured into His likeness. So do you have 2020 vision? Hold on to those moments when you have had 2020 vision, when you go down into the darkness, when you walk the valley of the shadow of death, you can still look back at that mountain and say, yes, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe, this is where I'm going. When you're in the valley of the shadow of death, you will fear no evil, for the Lord is with you. In fact, Isaiah even speaks to it some more. He says, every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain shall be made full and low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. On that last day, those mountaintops of 2020 vision are going to come down and meet the depths and the heartache of this world, and all will be made plain and straight, and we will see the glory of the Lord together as He reveals Himself, as He calls us unto Himself. So today, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, repent, love, and enjoy. Enjoy the life that's been given you. And see with 2020 vision. Let's stand.